People spend hours debating GPU choices and 5 minutes on the CPU decision. That imbalance makes sense. The GPU is the most important gaming component. But in 2026, choosing the wrong CPU for a budget gaming build is still a real way to waste money. A $300 CPU in a $700 build is financial malpractice. A $100 CPU that bottlenecks your GPU at 1080p is a different kind of waste. This guide cuts through every marketing claim and tells budget gamers exactly what processor to buy and why, at every price point that actually matters. The foundational truth of CPU selection for gaming in 2026 is this. For most gaming workloads, a 6-core CPU at 3.6 GHz or higher is not a bottleneck for GPUs in the $250–$450 range. Gaming is primarily a GPU-bound workload, and the performance gap between a $150 Ryzen 5 7600 and a $480 Ryzen 7 9800X3D in GPU-limited scenarios at 1080p. Ultra is often less than 5 to 10 FPS. The exception is CPU-heavy titles like simulation games, large open worlds, and esports titles at very high frame rates, where a better CPU provides meaningful gains. For the budget gamer pairing a GPU in the $250–$400 range, the CPU rule is straightforward. Spend $150–$200 on the CPU and motherboard combo and allocate everything else to the graphics card. A Ryzen 5 7600 or Ryzen 5 5600 are the two smartest choices in 2026 for this approach. Both are 6-core processors that provide clean, reliable gaming performance without bottlenecking any GPU in their budget tier. The Ryzen 5 5600 at around $110 is the right call if budget pressure is severe and you need every dollar for the GPU. AM4 is a mature platform with no meaningful upgrade path beyond what is already available, but at $110, it represents a genuinely capable gaming CPU that will not bottleneck a GPU up to RTX 4070 Ti class at 1080p gaming. It is not forward-looking, but it keeps your GPU budget intact, which matters most. The Ryzen 5 7600 at around $179 is the single best CPU purchase for a budget gaming build in 2026 that prioritizes the future. The AM5 platform it runs on supports AMD's Ryzen 9000 series, including the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, the fastest gaming CPU alive in 2026. Buying a Ryzen 5 7600 now and upgrading to a 9800X3D in 18–24 months without changing the motherboard is smart, cost-effective platform planning. You get capable gaming performance now with a clear, cheap upgrade path later. That combination of current value and future flexibility makes it the default recommendation for any budget builder in 2026. Intel's Core i5 Redout or 12400F remains a legitimate budget pick at around $130. The LG A1700 platform has less upgrade path appeal than AM5 in 2026, but the i5 2400F's real-world gaming performance is excellent for its price. In GPU-limited gaming at 1080p, it performs within a few frames of the Ryzen 5 7600 in most titles. If you find a good deal on an LG A1700 board and CPU combo, it is not a bad choice. It is simply not the future-proof option that AM5 represents. Intel's Core i5 13600K at around $200 is worth considering. For buyers who also use their PC for productivity, streaming, or content creation alongside gaming, thanks to its 14-core hybrid architecture handling multi-threaded workloads better than any 6-core AMD option at the same price. For those who want the absolute best gaming CPU without a budget constraint, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D at $480 is in a class of its own. Its 3D V-cache technology stacks an additional 96 millimeter wires of L3 cache directly onto the processor die, dramatically reducing memory latency in gaming scenarios. Independent benchmarks consistently show the 9800X3D outperforming Intel's best gaming CPU by an average of 35%, with peaks of 40% in specific CPU-bound titles. In Dragon's Dogma 2, Cyberpunk 2077, and Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, it produces frame rates no other consumer CPU can match. However, for a budget gamer pairing it with a $280 GPU, this chip's advantages are almost entirely wasted. The 9800X3D belongs in a build where the GPU is equally premium, RTX 5070 class or better. CPU choice matters more than most budget guides admit in specific scenarios. For competitive esports at very high frame rates, 240 FPS and above in CS2, Valorant, and Apex Legends, the CPU becomes the limiting factor once your GPU is capable enough to push those rates. At 240 FPS, the CPU needs to process game logic, physics, and AI calls fast enough to deliver frames consistently. A A strong CPU like the Ryzen 5 9600X or Core i5 to 3600K matters here in ways it does not, at 60 144 FPS targets where the GPU is the clear bottleneck. For simulation-heavy games like Cities, Skylines 2, Civilization series, Microsoft Flight Simulator, or large open-world games with complex NPC AI systems, the CPU is the primary performance determinant regardless of GPU. These games are explicitly CPU bound and scale heavily with single-threaded CPU performance and cache size. Budget gamers who spend significant time in these titles should weight the CPU selection higher than the standard gaming build formula suggests, and consider reaching for the Ryzen 5 9600X at $249 instead of the 7600 at $179. For streaming while gaming, the CPU carries a second full workload, encoding the stream in real time while also processing game logic. A 6-core CPU like the Ryzen 5 7600 handles light 720p 60 streaming reasonably well, but for consistent 1080p 60 stream quality while gaming at high settings, an 8-core processor like the Ryzen 7 7700 or Core i7 15700F provides noticeably more headroom. If streaming is a regular part of your gaming routine, bumping the CPU budget slightly and accepting a modest GPU step-down is a legitimate trade-off worth considering. Platform choice deserves its own discussion in 2026. AMD's AM5 socket is the clear platform winner for future-focused budget builds. AMD has committed to AM5 support through at least 2027, and the socket already hosts everything from the $110 Ryzen 5 5500 processors up to the $480 Ryzen 7 9800X3D. A builder who drops a Ryzen 5 7600 into an AM5 board today can upgrade to a Ryzen 999 50X or 9800X3D in 2 years without touching the motherboard, the RAM, or the cooling. That is genuine platform longevity that saves real money in the long run. Intel's LGA 1700 platform, by contrast, is reaching the end of its life cycle in 2026, with Meteor Lake and beyond moving to new socket designs. The honest bottom line for every budget gamer deciding on a CPU in 2026 is this: do not overspend on the processor in a gaming-first build. The Ryzen 5 7600 at $179 on AM5 is the smartest single purchase in the CPU market for budget gamers right now. It performs well today, bottlenecks nothing in its GPU tier, and gives you one of the best upgrade paths in PC hardware history. Put the rest of your budget where it matters most, into the graphics card. That is where your gaming experience actually lives.